7:30. My watch and the clock on the wall. I'd like to open up the May 18th Public Planning Commission meeting. And the first item on the agenda is called to order, but we'll move on to adopting the agenda. Gentlemen, you have the agenda in front of you. Have a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, if we could strike number 4, postpone it for a month, because number 4 isn't actually allowed to be applied for until number 3 has been dealt with by the Board of Supervisors. So number 4 really wouldn't be properly before us tonight. If you would, it's kind of like that multi-housing thing that was put on the agenda about a year or so ago. We spent a lot of time talking about it and wasn't even allowed. So I need to see us do something like that again.
This is very similar to last month or the month before with the application, the applicant's name.
The bed and breakfast edition.
Yes, the bed and breakfast edition. I think that had to do with the site plan, but there were not 2 applications, but it was, I believe that was valuable conversation to have moving forward to the next meeting, and expedited this commission, I believe, expedited our ability to come to a conclusion in that.
But if it's not allowed, it can't be applied for it.
And I think that was the argument last time. I will defer to the commissioners. Gentlemen, have a motion on the board to remove item number 4 from the new business. Mr. Brown, have any comments or reference to that?
No, I don't have any comment on it.
Mr. Brady?
No, sir.
Mr. Light?
It seems that there is a clear answer to this. And really, if Mr. Fraser is right, and I don't question that he is, then perhaps 4 isn't properly before us. I have to say that the subtlety of the difference isn't clear to me at the moment. That is the difference between 3 and 4.
Well, if they're 3, they're applying for a lifting of the profers. And until the profers are lifted by the Board of Supervisors, then number 4 actually can't go anywhere. I mean, they don't have the ability to apply for 4.
I see. So you're suggesting that the profers be addressed if we approve it, that go to the supervisors, then we have
Exactly. It would just be on the agenda for next month if it's dealt with in a positive manner for the applicant.
I certainly don't object to the motion.
Mr. Henry?
We've done other actions that were always subject to board approval. We could do it either way. It's whatever the board wants to do. I think we could hear it, properly, move on to the 4, subject to board approval. Nothing gets done without board approval. So it works either way. If you, whatever the board wants to do. I'm okay with Ron's motion. I'm also okay to do it. So completely right on the middle of the fence.
Well, in the interest of progress, I'll second the motion. I think it's required.
And there's, if I understand, Mr. Light, you're seconding it to remove item number 4 from the agenda.
Yes.
There's a motion on the board in second. Any further discussion? You want to put it on some next?
Do a personal conflict, I mean, abstain from the discussion of it on this application.
On the Yates application? So noted. All in favor of removing item number 4 from the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? the agenda. Any further discussion, gentlemen? The agenda will be, item number 4 will be removed from the agenda. With the current agenda that we have recommended, I hear a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Light and then Mr. Brown. You have before you the minutes from the last meeting, gentlemen. You had a chance to review that, and if you have any deletions, additions, comments? There being none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Light has a second. The next item on the agenda is public comment session. Before I open up the public comment session, I want to go over the format of the meeting. We obviously have 3 applications here now this evening, and some of you may be here on a particular application, but there will be a public comment for each one of those applications that we'll open up the floor for. But before we get to that, I'm going to open up a public comment session just for general comments, if you have something on your mind. I'd ask you to state your name and the district you're from. If you have something on your mind you want to comment to the Planning Commission for, and we'll recognize you and give you ample time to talk. So, before we move on, I'll open up the public comment session, the first one. And it does not have to do with the application, so if you're here again for one of those, you may want to hold off. You'll have an opportunity to talk. Open that up. Anybody have any comments? Generally? Ms. Kaiser, you had something you wanted to take?
I would like to note that we received a comment for public comment this week from Cynthia Price regarding the comprehensive plan, and it's out on board docs, so we won't read it tonight. But if you're interested, please visit board docs for her public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. There being no public comment, I now close the first public comment session. Moving on to old business, there being none, we'll move right into new business. First application that is before us is special use 160403, the Chapman family apartment. Ms. Kaiser.
The applicant desires to build a family apartment located in an existing barn. The barn is currently 1,491 square feet of unfinished space. The barn is to be converted into 2 spaces, one of 408 square feet for storage and workshop, and 2 a 1,083 square foot living space. Both spaces will have a separate entrance and will not be connected via a door. And the barn structure is located 13 feet from the main house. This is property tax map number 38A-1, parcel 28, zone village residential in the Piedmont district. That address is 3727 Sperryville Pike, Sperryville, Virginia. The use is allowed under 170-36A with additional standards and 170-62G, and it's the recommendation for approval in conjunction with all other Rappahannock County building requirements.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Before I open up the public comment session for this particular application, I'd like to recognize the applicant. If you'd like to address the commission.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Okay, state your name and your district for the rest.
My name is Robert Chapman. Sometimes go by Robert Archer, my nickname. Piedmont District. I live in Sperryville. I purchased a beautiful little house in August of 2015, and behind it was this barn. I'm completely in love with the barn and want to turn it into a usable space other than just a dirt and gravel structure. It's got a foundation on it, and inside it kind of has this open floor plan. And so I think it would work really well as a family apartment. It will allow me to possibly move my mom into the apartment at some point. I want to have that open for consideration. And I don't know if she's going to approve 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, I'm not sure, but I want to have that flexibility. And in the meantime, use it as personal studio space. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will now open up the public comment session for 160403 Chapman Family Apartment. More comments. Your name and
I'm Barbara Dolphy. I own the property just behind that property, and I would like to speak in support of this application. I think it's a great use of the space. I'll be delighted to have his mother come here. I've got a walking partner, and I'll be moving in there. I have a vacation rental house down there, and we're closing that business after 11 years. And then I can move into it, so I'll be glad to be their partners.
My name is Bill Fletcher. I live in the Piedmont District. I own a house in Sperryville, 3730 Sperryville Pike, which is very close, obviously, to this across the street. I think it's an excellent application. Mr. Chapman's a good man. I hope you'll approve it.
thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Any other comments regarding this application? I now close the public comment session for 160403. Return to the commissioners. Questions of the applicant or discussion. This is in my district, gentlemen. Mr. Light, could I defer to you to start the conversation, sir?
Sure, I don't have much. I guess I'm curious, is it a, it's hard to tell from the drawing, is it an old, when was it built and what was its original and current use?
As I understand it, the barn was built in 1870, the main section of the barn, 1870. It was, as I understand it, it was used as a hayloft. It also served as, I believe, the stables for the doctor's house across the street, where even Stu Willis lived. As I understand, it was also served as a dairy barn, where they would drive cattle from one of the other farms and milk the cows there. So it's had a lot of uses. It is an open floor plan, and it's structurally sound. It's beautifully made. It's got all these mortise and tenon joints and some really nice woodworking inside. So my goal is to kind of accentuate that and just make a really nice living space.
Thank you. I mean, it seems like it's hard to imagine another use for obviously a significant structure, and it seems fitting, and I generally support it.
Thank you, Mr. Light. Mr. Brady.
I would concur with Mr. Light. I think it's a good use for a building that's, for all intents and purposes, downtown Sperryville. I don't think we'll be using that as a dairy farm anytime soon. It's an application.
Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant said that we plan on using it maybe 6 months or even as far out as 5 years for the mother to move into.
Yeah, it's not clear to me when my mother would move in. Sure, her husband is in not great health, so I don't know if that's 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. And I'm doing all of the work myself, so it might take 6 months to finish it. It might take a year to finish it. So there's a kind of a window I'm playing around. I'd like the opportunity to be able to move my mother in if when she can.
Yeah, the only same stipulation of a family apartment, you're not supposed to rent them out to anyone, outside the family for the first 2 years.
Yep.
So you're well aware of
Yes, sir.
that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the building does have ample off-street parking. The property has 2 driveways, one that serves my house on one side of the property, and then directly in front of the barn, you could fit 5-10 cars there if you wanted to. So it's not going to need traffic or be a burden, I feel like.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
I see no mention of water and sewer. You
Right.
use the existing one, or
The barn is, and as drawn on the Sperryville sewer plans, that the barn is hooked up to the sewer system already, and that's how I purchased the barn. It was pointed out to me that it's already hooked up to the sewer system. And there is a water line just off the left corner of the barn, so.
And one other question. You're saying an elderly couple that's gonna be living in it?
Just my mother, yeah, unless she remarries. Finds a husband in Sperryville.
Now, just looking at, you only have one exit and entrance to it. What if that emergency comes up and that entrance is blocked?
Well, we've got 2 entrance and exits. I called out one of them because it's an existing entrance, and as I read the rules, there needs to be one existing entrance. If you'll look at that picture there, the 2 doors are actually operational. I'm going to make those false doors and add a second entrance around the corner that opens to the left yard of the barn. So.
In other words, this will be a door here and you have one around back.
Correct.
Understood.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And lots of windows for,
That's
basic
all I have.
operation. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
No question.
Just a couple of questions. Mr. Arthur, recently do some work to that building, replacing some, is it roof maybe, or side building?
The roof was replaced the year that I purchased it. The windstorm blew off the old roof, and so the previous owner had a new roof put on, so it's got a brand new roof. What I've been doing is shoring up some of the foundation points inside the barn. In fact, just today we poured a foundation wall in the back of the barn and in some footers inside the barn to support some of the beams. And it's, of course, all done by permit. So, yeah, we've done some work.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I'm really familiar with this building. I know this is, meets the requirements of the code, and the building itself, or the barn, is a tremendous improvement from what it was some years ago. Coming around Sperryville, a little younger man at that time, but this is, I think, an excellent use. I support it as well. I'd like to make a motion that special use 160403 Chapman family apartment be approved in accordance with the existing code, with the understanding that that's not to be rented out for 2 years.
Yes, sir.
And that's it's designed for a family member, as you stated. And also in accordance with the building regulations that might come along with that, this permit might require.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Full discussion. Okay. Your next stop will be Tony.
Next Wednesday,
Wednesday? Yes.
7.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is special exception 160404. And this is I may pronounce this name wrong. Is this, Ms. Kaitlin, can you help me? I'm putting you on the spot.
Abacassis, did I say that right?
Yes, is that right? That's what I was going to say. Thank you for saving me. Ms. Kaitlin.
Okay. The applicant has a contract to purchase 17 Antiques Lane in Sperryville, Virginia, which was formerly Elmer's Antiques. The property consists of 2.5 acres of land improved by 5 buildings. The purchase is contingent upon a special exception permit to operate a contractor's office and shop and yard for his pool and spa business, known as Commonwealth Pool Service, Inc. This business has been in operation since 1998 and has been located in Rappahannock County, near Sperryville on Lee Highway Route 211 since 2010. It's property tax map 38, parcel 21. It's zoned rural residential. It's in the Piedmont district. And again, that address is 17 Antiques Lane in Sperryville. The use is allowed under 170-36E. The applicant is not planning to house employees other than for pickup and delivery of contractor materials. So in discussion with the building department, there's no need for restrooms, handrails, and that sort of thing. And there's also not planning to be a showroom, so it will be strictly a contractor's yard.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Before opening up to public comment, much like the last application, I'd like to recognize the applicant and if you'd like to address the commission.
Good evening. My name is Andre Abacassis. I am a business owner in Rappahannock County. I have a contract to purchase the 17 Antiques Lane property. The sale is contingent upon my being able to obtain a special exception to use the property as a contractor's office, shop, and yard. The property is located in a residential area of single-family homes off of Atkins Road near Sperryville. The property has been used for many years by Owners Antiques. Owners ran an antique shop and a side mill that was a retail business open to the public. There was a directional sign for the business located on Route 211 near the intersection of Atkins Road and Route 211. Commonwealth Pool Service is my business, and I have been servicing the swimming pools and spas in the area for 18 years. My current location is on Route 211 in Sperryville. I desire to move to 17 Antiques Lane as the space is more suited for the operation of my business. I do not plan to construct any new buildings. I do not plan to extend the size or height of any of the existing buildings. My use of the property, except for the parking, would be contained within the walls of the existing buildings. I plan no additional fencing, screening, or buffering. My business is not open to the public. There would be no pedestrian traffic generated. The only traffic generated would be vehicles coming and going to pick up and deliver supplies. The company owns 5 vehicles, but no more than 2 are used on a daily basis. During winter months, December through March, there would be a lot less traffic. Electric service is in place to all buildings on the property. No other utilities would be necessary. There is adequate space on the property for a few vehicles that would be parked on the subject property. I have one sign I would propose to use that is 4 by 6 feet. A copy of this sign was submitted with the application. No lighting is proposed for this sign. My proposed use of the property is less intensive than the existing non-conforming use of the antique shop because it will not be open to the public. My proposed use of the property would not affect the air quality or groundwater quality of nearby land buildings or impair the value thereof. There is a spring located on the property that provides water to the subject property as well as the residents on the adjoining parcel of land. My use would be minimal as it is necessary for my storage usage or the small repair work that I may be performing on site. The only waste produced would be containers in which pool supplies are stored prior to their use. My proposed use would not significantly change the exterior appearance or increase the traffic flow to the property. Therefore, the proposed use should not have any impact on any historic or scenic qualities of the immediate area. I believe that my business is consistent with those goals, principles, and policies of the comprehensive plan for the county. My business is small owned by a local resident who provides employment to 3 to 5 individuals. It creates no pollution. It is quiet, will not cause any significant increase in traffic, and will not require any additional lighting other than what has been on the property for decades. It does not involve the conversion of any agricultural land to commercial use and will not increase the burden on public or volunteer services. It provides a service to residents of the county. Thank you for your time and consideration. I am willing to answer any questions you may have. Also present this evening are the owners of the property, Judith Kress and Beverly Connors, the daughters of Americans. They are available to answer any questions about the former use of the property or any questions about the property itself that I'm not able to answer. Thank you.
I now open up the public comment session for application 1604-4. Any comments from the audience? I now close public comment session for 1604-4. Turn to the commissioners. Gentlemen, again, this is in my district. Mr. Mike, can I start with you as well?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just the existing business, where is that located now, and to what extent do you expect the operation to remain, the same services and the same kind of business, or do you expect a significant change from where you are to the new place?
My existing business is on Sperryville Pike. It's the old Blue Moon. Assume you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I've spent a few times.
You've been there.
I really don't use the building a lot. I use the outside area and the storage, and I'm limited on storage space there without building or creating something unsightly outside.
And so I think I understand this, but just to confirm, your employees aren't doing services on this site. They're generally just coming and going and doing the services on the site of the pools and spas that you're servicing.
That's right. We go and we pick up our supplies in the morning. We do what we do. We come back, unload, and then occasionally maybe we'll have a pump motor we need to take apart where it could be dry. It would be handy for that, but not much more than that.
And the existing water systems are adequate because you're not really there. I guess trying to understand if there's any disposal. It sounds like you've got minimal chemicals on site, but is there ever there's got to be some system, I would think you're cleaning things out. Is there any water disposal on site?
No, that's the only thing that I could think that I would use water for is maybe if I wanted to clean my truck. That's about it, really.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. I think this is an application that if we were to approve it, I would like to see the description and the plan as articulated in the application actually be part of the permit, because I think there are some stated intentions about not changing the existing structures and that sort of thing. I'd like to see enforcement. So that's all my own comment.
Great.
What are the typical hours of your operation, sir?
We usually get there around 7 or 8 in the morning, and we're usually home by 5 or 6. Unless for some reason we got held up for the day.
But standard.
Yeah.
Have you heard from any adjoining landowners other than the sellers? Those are all the questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Frazier?
So, you do any excavating as part of your work?
Not usually.
Not even a little bit?
I have an excavator. Usually I use it
That's good enough.
for forks.
How about plumbing?
Plumbing? Yeah, I do some plumbing.
That's good. No further questions.
Needs work done.
Brown?
Questions I had have been answered already.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hill?
Is there room for a house on this property?
There is.
There is. Is it on public sewer now?
It is not.
So, I guess you're using a little water, but you don't have a bathroom there?
I think there are 2 outhouses, but no intention to use them.
I guess with some employees coming, and I guess you're probably gonna have a little bit more use here of this property than you did in 211. I guess maybe an outhouse is not kind of typical anymore. Are you gonna have a Don John there, or are you gonna put a bathroom in?
If required, usually we're there in the morning, load the truck, and we're gone for the day and come back and unload the truck.
We're looking at 4 buildings here on the screen. What would you say the square footage is on the building number 1?
I haven't done the math, but it's somewhere around 60 by 90 feet.
60 by 90, so about 5,400 feet. And that second building number 2, then?
It's all cut up into pieces. so this would be adequate to keep my things.
And I know this is not a tax map and it's not an official rendering, but it kind of looks like the property line's pretty tight against building number 1 there.
Yeah, but it's on the fence line, it's close. That building number 1 isn't almost an urban structure.
Is what?
An urban structure, the walls are.
I know, but the property line is the property. I guess the black line is the approximate property line.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah. Flip 2 off.
Yeah, there's nothing to lock.
Yeah. That's all the questions I have.
I have one question here, talk about the hazardous materials. You indicate that spa chemicals that might be stored on site are chemicals that you could typically get at Home Depot or some other retail store.
That's right.
And you've indicated in your application here that all chemicals are currently stored at the Lee Highway location. Am I to understand that you're going to be vacating that property? They're not, you're going to have 2 businesses? Are you going to?
I'm going to vacate and either rent or sell that building.
I'm sorry.
I will rent or sell the old building.
So it's your intent to move that entire business to?
Yes, sir.
I don't have any further questions. Gentlemen, pleasure of the commission.
I think it's a fine use. Only thing that I would say that any additional lighting that's required would be per the light ordinance. That's the one thing that I see. It's definitely, I think you did a very nice application, and I think that it will definitely be less traffic and less use than antiques locally going to the city.
So would you like to entertain a motion? Or would you like to make the motion?
I think I'll make the motion, I make the motion special exception 160404 be approved in accordance with the light ordinance as Mr. Henry has indicated. Any other, Mr. Henry?
You'll second
We'll have further discussion.
Yes, this is another one where, you know, there's a lot of statements about signage and existing use of buildings that, although they're stated as planned, I don't know that they would be binding unless we explicitly make them binding, and I would suggest that the conditions described in the application be conditions in the permit, and if there's going to be a material change, then that the applicant come back. I think we've done that in a few cases where where there are a lot of, you know, explicit plans that I think are important to, you know, my support of it. I think if it were, you know, for example, I'm not sure that he would be compelled if he were to change the buildings to come back to us, even just because he said he has no plans to do so. So my recommendation is that we make the description in the application condition.
Can you do that, Mr. Applicant?
Yes, we can.
If I hear you correct, Mr. Light, any anticipation from the applicant to do anything other than then we would need to come back before this commission?
I think we're giving him a special use here to operate the pool business that he's already operating. And if he was to sell the property and change the use, we would be back here again. And if he was to do any modifications to the building, that would be subject to the zoning,
Right.
the setbacks and building code and whatever else it may be. So I just got a problem of putting another layer of bureaucracy on him. I mean, I think the zoning ordinance is there for a reason, and I think anything that he does with the building, I mean, if he wants to paint it a color, that's fine. If he wants to change the roof line, that's fine. If he goes in and does an addition to the building, then he has to meet the zoning ordinance. I don't think we need to be supervising and be out there with them for these kind of things.
Well, you know, the application has very specific statements about the use and the nature of the use, down to specific signage, size of signage, not doing something that would use smoke, dust, or odors. Those wouldn't be otherwise subject to the building code requirements. Those are statements being made about the intended use. To me, they're very material to the approval of use, and I'd like to see that they have some sort of enforceability. I don't think it would be something we would expect. I think we can make it subject to material changes in what's been proposed, but I think that's pretty good practice myself.
I don't have any problem with the sign, on putting the size of the sign. But I guess everything else becomes subjective. You know, if dust is created by the driveway, what is too much dust?
I guess it's if something is perceived to be a material change to what's proposed, the alternative that you're implying by saying that we take each item one at a time and try to articulate the size of the sign, seems to me to be more onerous than simply saying we're asking that you adhere to the terms of the application that you brought before us. It seems to me that I'd rather have him comply with his own specifications than any that we would define.
I think we've normally stated the size limit on a sign, and left it at that, and these other things, as long as they're legal in the Commonwealth and legal by our ordinance, it was acceptable.
Well, it seems like we don't quite agree on that.
I don't think so. Yeah, just a little bit more free enterprise than I guess.
Any other discussion?
Do we need for a second?
I made a motion, yes, we're looking for a second.
I think I seconded it.
Did you, that's right, Mr. Henry, you did. Apologize. I think the devil's in the detail here.
So I guess it's a question of if we're going to do any amendments to the original motion.
Well, I would propose that we amend the original motion to include the material stipulations in the application with respect to the use of the structures and signage and lighting, and et cetera.
I'm okay with the signage and lighting, but I'm not okay with the etc. Sounds like a pill.
How about just the terms that are specified in the application?
And that falls back upon the zoning administrator for every little sentence interpretation. If you got a different zoning administrator, they don't have the privilege of being here and heard the discussion.
The application will be on file.
It'll be on file. So everybody reads the document, they receive a different interpretation.
Wouldn't that be then applied to the existing zoning that we have?
Yeah.
I think the application is well laid out. It's gone into a lot of detail. Maybe that's what's drawn some further discussion. And after hearing the conversation, I would tend to agree that the application obviously be made part of the approval, if it winds up being like that. But in any other ordinance that is applicable as the applicant moves forward to do something else to that property within his right, will be governed by the existing building code or county ordinance. And if it requires to come back before this commission, we have the ordinances in place to require that.
I think the applicant did a very nice application, very detailed, very honest, straightforward. And we've seen other applications that were more hand-drawn, less specifics, and I don't want to penalize him to the degree because he gave us such a good application. I think if he would have said a lot less, we would probably have approved and moved on.
I don't think so. I'm sorry to say. I mean, for example, the application has no current plans to move, increase the size or height, or change the design of existing buildings, walls, fences, or landscaping. So that, to me, is important to my choice to approve this application. I think it goes to the nature of the use of the property, not any other ordinances associated with it. And I think it's in providing those details that has made the application desirable. But should the applicant decide that he does have plans to move, increase the size, height, or change the design of existing buildings, it seems to me I'd like that to require a revision to the permit. And I'm not sure that it does unless we make this a condition of the permit.
I agree with Mr. Settle and what he said, that it's sufficiently covered now by the ordinance and the code and agree to the stipulation by the sign.
Any other conversation, discussion? The motion on the floor, Mr. Henry second. All in favor of approving this application as in accordance with any existing ordinances that are in place that might govern in future improvements to this property. And the application itself, obviously, will be made part of the record anyway, I would assume. I don't imagine this is going away. All in favor of approval, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The next stop is the Board of Supervisors. Is that correct? Special reception. Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 160405 Commercial Yates amendment to profers. Ms. Kaiser.
It is being requested that the foregoing property proffers be amended to allow individual self-storage units that could be available to the public for rent, and the use is allowed by code 17-134. And I did some review this week, and I have in front of you an exhibit of the zoning map. And if you see the 52C, the little box to the left, that is the property that we are referring to. In this example, this is the same area, the track 4 in the back is where we're talking about. That's the same box. There's track 4A, which is right in front of that. And then there's the track 1, which refers to some documentation that I have put into the file. And then this comes from the comprehensive plan. And this shows what the commercial overlay is. So if you look all the way to the left where the pink line comes down to a point, that building right there, it's right there in front of you. That is the original Faith Mountain building. So the property that we're talking about really kind of crosses over that pink line so that it's bound between the two. But what really matters is the zoning, because this is a proposed commercial overlay. So what you saw in the first example for the red box is what is actually zoned. This is what the county has proposed as for a commercial area. So it is different than the zoning. I put together a chart for you because there's a lot of history on this. And it shows, those that are marked yellow refer to the same pieces of property. Those that have the faint gray shading refer to the same piece of property. So if you look to the right, you can see what the different proffers have been throughout the history on this property. So you can see that the first one was Faith Mountain, and there were proffers restricted to retail sales and offices, a mail order business. We'll screen both of the side yards by planting evergreens. The next one is the back piece of property, which is the lighting was to be down shielded. There was a 30-foot right-of-way not to be for commercial, and the bond to ensure the screening was provided. And then to hook onto the water and sewer, it becomes available. Then the next one is the front piece, track 1. Again, you can read the restrictions to the right. And then the next one is the back piece of property, and this is where the property was split into 2 parcels. So the owner had the back property split, which is track 4, which is where the residential piece is, and 4A is now the piece that we're talking about. And that was zoned from commercial to ag for the back piece for neighbors to move in. So we are looking at amending the proffers to remove them for allowing storage, and then followed up at another meeting to look at the special exception. I added in the chart to show you at the bottom that it's zoned general commercial with a partial overlay of the proposed general commercial. I put in the front setbacks, and I put in the side setbacks. It says commercial to residential, which this would be 25 feet. There's no comment regarding agriculture, but I assume that they are one and the same between agriculture and residential, and that the building height would be 50 feet. And I did not write a recommendation earlier this week because I wanted to really thoroughly check this and understand the zoning. So I did put something together today, so I apologize for it being late. And this really takes in both of the considerations, but I will go through them fairly quickly and read them to you. And again, this is really for both. So a thorough review of the vents above confirms the current parcel tract 4A is zoned commercial and has been since 1989. This commercially zoned property now has 3 neighboring residential homes located on the boundaries, one of which is a result of the current owner and applicant of tract 4, Mr. Yates, rezoning a portion of this parcel specifically for residential use. Due to the bordering homes, consideration needs to be given to these specific parcels from increasing commercial activities. Based on Principle 7 of the Comprehensive Plan, it is to promote only economic growth that assists in maintaining or existing balance and is compatible with the environment, quality, and rural character, and does not adversely affect active farm operations, forestry operations, residential neighborhoods, which is the important point here, and the tourist industry and the county's fiscal stability. That said, per the comprehensive plan, only one area in the county, Lee Highway, between the old toll house and the intersection of Route 622, which is Rock Mills, is experiencing a mixture of commercial, public facility, and residential development. This area should be as a focal point for future economic and public facility activities, provided that road access is maintained. So other than our villages, this is the only designated area in the county for economic growth, which is crucial for our county's future economic stability. There are a significant number of by right permissible uses for this property as allowed by our zoning ordinance that will likely have a lesser impact on the neighbors, such as retail sales or offices with proper screening and signage. As this is one of the few designated commercial areas, a review of this area needs to be considered in the upcoming comprehensive plan updates to avoid clashes in the future between residential and commercial growth, so the county can best utilize this crucial commercial area. I would like to take credit or blame, whichever the case may be, that the application was accepted without a full site plan. We have not held previous candidates to this standard. I think it's something that we need to look at in the future to provide different levels of site plans based on the appropriate breadth and depth of the project. The site plan does indicate it's conceptual, and the applicant is willing to provide additional information at the request of the Planning Commission if the proper rezoning is approved without the applicant incurring unnecessary expensive fees. And so for this reason, I didn't deem it as an incomplete application. But again, I think that's something that we need to look at for the future. And lastly, I wanted to point out that the applicant has in their proffered amendment number 5, it states that the applicant will convert the interior area of the existing building into individual climate-controlled storage units. All modifications will take place on the interior of the existing building. No construction will take place on the exterior of the building. In my opinion, as long as this is for storage and use of the vendors currently utilizing the building for protection of their antiques and art, this is a by right permissible accessory use and is not necessary to be included in the proffers, which I understand is their intent. So it means that they can't go out and start renting it out to store people's clothes and toys, but as long as they use it for the business, it would be a permissible accessory use. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Kaitlin. Just so the audience is clear, when we started this meeting, we had 2 applications for the commercial Yates self-storage facilities. Obviously, the special exception has been postponed simply because we need to work through the proffers. So I tell you that as I open up the public comment session, there'll be another day to address the application if this works through and receives approval. So just please understand that. If you want to comment tonight, that's fine. I'm not trying to run you off or shut you down. But we're just dealing with the proffers tonight. I'd like to recognize the applicant here tonight.
Yes, I'm representing Mr. Yates.
Come on up front if you don't mind. Maybe we can hear you a little better.
You want me to sit here or stand?
You can stand, sir. Just state your name. And,
okay, my name is Taylor Odom. I'm an attorney in town here in Washington. I'm representing Mr. Yates on his application to amend the proffers. Prior to Mr. Yates' purchase of the property, it was owned by Faith Mountain, and they had submitted multiple proffers back in 1989 and 1993 based on their catalog and retail and sales business. One of the restrictions that they explicitly put on the property was that it should not be used as a, quote, warehousing facility. If you read in the Rappahannock County ordinance, there is a section that says warehousing, and then below that there are subsections, and one of them is storage facilities. So because they had specifically proffered that that would be excluded, the applicant now desires tonight to remove that proffer from the original proffer submitted in 1993 to allow the storage use of the property. So I guess what we're talking about now is just the use of the property to be able to use it as a storage facility. The county has already allowed the use of storage facilities in other parts of the commercial district. This is just expanding upon the use. There are a number of by right uses that Ms. Kaiser has stated. If you look through the ordinance, retail sales can be interpreted to being a number of things. It could be interpreted to be car sales, and there are also a number of ideas that you can say that what are retail sales. But right now, I think what we're talking about is just the use of being able to have it as a storage facility. Currently, the way the building is structured is that there are individual units that antique dealers are holding their property for sale. The public can walk through that. The idea is to have partitions and a climate-controlled area where people could store other items not in association with the current business of Ginger Hill Antiques. So if, for instance, someone were moving and they wanted to store a valuable piece of furniture that they don't want to have sitting in 90-degree metal building during the middle of the summer, that would be an idea. That would be a place where they could put their furniture or any sort of other valuable items. And I think that's what we should limit the discussion tonight, is just based on the use, adding the use of storage to the property. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I now open up the public comment session for 160405, Commercial Yates Amendment to profers. Because we have a number of people here tonight that may wish to speak, you will have 3 minutes, and we'll be timing that. We're going to stay real close to that. We're not going to let that go beyond 3 minutes. So if I cut you off, it's not because we're being rude or I'm being rude. It's just in the best interest of time, because there's a lot of folks here that have something to say. We'd like to hear it.
Mr. Chairman, before you adopt your rule, I want you to be aware that the state code requires that you give everybody who wants to speak on this an equal amount of time to what the applicant had, which was at least 5 minutes. That's required by the state code. So a 3-minute rule, I don't think is legal.
I don't know if anybody in here was timing that.
I was.
For you. You have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll move forward. I'll open up the public comment session for this application.
I give it 6 minutes.
You state your name and your district.
My name is Jeremy Christopher, Hampton District.
Amy Christopher.
My wife Amy and my son Fielding. We own the property just to the west of this. And well, real estate can be interesting and fickle, and you can try to do all the research you like and meet your neighbors. But until you live there, you can never truly know if one of your neighbors likes to have late parties or use chainsaws at 6 in the morning. But one thing you can count on, or I shall hope, is the laws. And doing our research and looking at things, we read these, we looked at these, we saw that there's not going to be a large warehouse next to our property. And that's just going to crush our hard work, our resale value. And you know, there is no site plan, as you took credit for. But has any of you gone up to this hill and looked down from that site? You're looking right over the buildings at 211. This is going to be a monstrosity, basically. You can look down on the co-op, not over it, or see. You can see into the roof. That's a 2-story building. We just, I ask that you deny this. That's all I have to say.
And I think, you know, Mr. Yates signed a paper that described how the property would be used. By law, he agreed to this. And the only way you should be able to amend the profers is by permission from the neighbors and consent. And I think that should be fair, and that should be honored here. And that's what I have to say about it. I'm in disagreement with all of it, and I hope that you guys can see where we're coming from. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Tim Dunbar. I don't live in the county. I am here by proxy for my daughter, Ashley Wharton. They are out of the country, and we're not going to be able to be here to speak. And you're going to hear a lot of talk tonight from people here. They're going to tell you legal aspects of it. They're going to talk about the application was incomplete. They're going to talk about heightened criminal activity that's associated with self-storage units. And they're going to talk about the existing profers and why we shouldn't change them, the laws that are there. I'm going to let those guys do that. I'm going to talk to you as a parent and as a father, stepfather. My daughter and son-in-law have invested almost $500,000 in the piece of property that they bought from Mr. Yates, to include the property. I have photos here of the property. My son-in-law, born and raised here in Rappahannock County. His uncle owns a cafe across the street. I'm sure many of you have eaten there. what should be considered here is not the benefit of the one, but the benefit of the whole. And the whole being the landowners that directly adjoin that property, which would be my daughter and my son-in-law, Amy and her husband, and the Jenkinses. They've only been married a few years. They had a vision of what they wanted for their first home, and the vision that they had is sitting on Clark Lane. The proffers were in place. They knew of the existing drain field in the adjoining properties. They were confident that with these set proffers in place, they would not have to worry about an intrusion onto their property. And when I say intrusion, we're talking a matter of feet to walk out of their garage, step off of their driveway, walk across their front yard, and have to look at a self-storage unit right there.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Okay. You guys are part of the management of the county. I would hope that you would have the managerial courage to look at what's already in place and deny this application. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Alan Rexter. I live in the Hampton District and I reside at 184 Clark Lane. It's difficult to follow an eloquent speech like that, and one that comes from the heart with passion. However, we do know about the proffers when they were agreed to in 1989. When a lot of the folks and my neighbors here purchased their property, they relied on those proffers. And that was that this area would be restricted to retail sales. Not only that, the proffers specifically prohibited warehousing. It's one thing to have an antique store or a mountainside physical therapy, but it's another thing to have 250 self-contained storage units. The applicant knew of these restrictions when he bought the property in 2007. If he was willing to agree to these restrictions then, why is he not now? This property directly abuts, the storage units would directly abut the residential property. We had a deal. The applicant could engage in retail sales. We could live in peace and quiet. Asking to break this agreement is changing the rules because you no longer like the rules and you want new ones. If this is allowed, what happens to the integrity of our zoning? I was going to talk about several sections, 170.34 and 170.34I and J. We all know that. You have those sections before you, the general standards. I would like to add one personal note in closing. Since my home is at the end of this road, this proposal does not probably affect me as directly as my neighbors. But we have a tight community, and we watch out for each other. Isn't this what Rappahannock is all about? This self-storage development will directly face my neighbor Janice Jenkins, Ashley and Mark Wharton, and Amy and Jeremy Christopher. I don't care how much of a fence or trees you put up, something like this simply cannot be adequately hidden from view. And you can't hide noise, exterior lighting, or threats from disorder that may come to the neighborhood. So I am principally here to support my neighbors. If it's not good for them, it's not good for me. But more importantly, this is not good for Rappahannock County. I urge you to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Yes, sir, my name is Bill Fletcher, and I live in Piedmont. I think I own some land in Hampton also. But I had an opportunity to review this, and it doesn't make sense to me. I think it's mislaid. You have a pre-existing proffer that local people in the community have used and relied on for a number of years and expended a tremendous amount of money. In the original proffer, as I understand it, says there should be no storage units on it. Also, if you look at the comprehensive plan, I think it was section 5 or something you had in the letter, I'm sorry you didn't see that earlier. But this isn't good for Rappahannock County. Mountainside Physical Therapies employs 10 people, the Antique Place employs 2, and there are 35 people approximately that are in that building. The other problem is, when I look at the storage unit concept, they're coming off Rock Mills Road, which is a place where I've had an accident, and I've seen a number of accidents over the years. With this kind of development, you'd have a different traffic pattern, and I don't think they'd go in on Clark Lane and do an accel or decel lane, because that isn't as wide as my shoulders hardly. The other problem is, this is supposed to promote the community. Right now, we've got a business, Mountainside, and the antique store employ 12 to 15 mainly local residents daily, and they have serviced hundreds, if not thousands of people. He's not only asking to change other, but destroy services that the community has come to rely on. I mean, Annie Williams is a treasurer of Rappahannock County. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of people have been serviced by her over the years. This would destroy that business, and I don't know where else she could be located in Rappahannock County. We've got a pre-existing storage unit in Rappahannock County. Jay Miller's, I talked to him the other day, and it's 80% occupied. And he doesn't have anything like the 250 units Mr. Yates, who's a fine man, and I know, and he's just trying to make a business deal. But this plan is mislaid on so many factors that I could speak for a half hour, and I'm sure Mr. Connick will come up and speak ad nauseam more than I will, but I ask you to turn it down. Thank you, sir.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take the invitation that Bill just gave me to speak ad nauseam for my 3 minutes. I want to just say that I agree with just about everybody who has spoken so far, but I want to talk about the integrity of the zoning ordinance. This property, first of all, what Ms. Kaiser said in the beginning, in her introduction, perhaps inadvertently, that this is a permitted use. It's not a permitted use. The only permitted use is the use that Faith Mountain applied for and what it proffered for. I used to have an interest in this property when Mr. Fletcher's father sold it, and I know it very well. It was zoned agriculture, and it was the part of it, the front part of it, was zoned commercial. The back part where the building and so forth was added, and that's when these proffers came in. And the proffers were specifically agreed to by the Board of Supervisors and Sherry Woodard. She's here in the audience so she can speak up to it, so that the commercial zone would be extended so they could build their building. And if you go back and look at the Planning Commission minutes back then and the supervisor minutes, which I have done, and I invite you all to do it if you haven't had time, then table it. Everybody said, oh, we know Martin and Sherry Woodard, we know their business, we know what they're going to do there. There's not going to be any warehouse there, there's not going to be anything of this type. It's only going to be for drop shipping of what they're going to do, and that's all it was approved for. Not all the uses in the commercial general zone. And what I want to say is, if you would recommend to approve this, I know people seem to have the misconception that the Planning Commission recommends or approves things. It doesn't. It recommends. That's all. The supervisors approve it or disapprove it. So if you would renege on those conditions to the detriment of all these neighbors and all these people who relied on it, you know, there's got to be a reason. And there hasn't been one thing stated by the applicant or anybody else what has changed since 1989. Nothing's changed. If anything, it's changed to the other side. There's a new house, there's more residential development there. There's no commercials, if the commercial zone had expanded or changed or something like that, maybe there would be a basis to do what they want to do, if the whole character of the neighborhood had changed. But this, what they're proposing to do, is going to change totally the character of the neighborhood, and that would be a violation of the proffers, and that would be a very bad precedent to set, because if you do that, you might as well not have any conditional zoning. That's why it was conditional zoned in the first place. It was a narrow exception granted to them to do exactly what Faith Mountain wanted to do and no more. And if it hadn't been for the proffers and those limitations, it never would have been approved. And so if you now, later on, with no change of conditions, agree to change it, now I'm on my ad nauseum time. If you agree to change it, you're going to be setting a very dangerous precedent, because conditions aren't going to mean anything in any permit. Thank you.
Let the record show that Mr. Connick got more than 3 minutes.
More than 5.
Yeah, but I was good.
Public comment session still open. Sir.
My name is Brian Schultz, Hampton District. My wife Brigitte and I live at 58 Clark Lane. When we moved here, we were aware of some of the zoning laws that could help ensure a certain quality of life. Then an LLC purchased the next property up the lane. They did not want the same zoning laws that applied to the rest of us. Every neighbor living on the street at that time opposed Harmony Manor, but they managed to get a special use permit. The quality of life on Clark Lane went down at that point, and we have been damaged. The LLC still has an active lawsuit against my wife and I because we would not back down. They ordered us to cut down over 200 leafless cypress trees along the roadway. We planted the trees for privacy over 12 years ago with our own hands. The trees are not in the right-of-way, but the LLC said they could not enjoy their ingress and egress because of our tree. We have spent thousands of dollars, legal fees, because of the lawsuit. I know Greg Yates. We have gotten along well. I have done work for Greg, and I have respect for him. Greg was active in our fight against the B&B. I am choosing to fight for my neighbors. Greg Yates purchased his property with the proffers in place. Now he's looking to change the rules of usage. Sounds familiar. The owners of Harmony Manor never lived on Clark Lane. Greg Yates will never live on Clark Lane. Please deny this application and stop putting corporate interest over the individual homeowner's quality of life. Haven't we been through enough on Clark Lane? Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Janice Jenkins. I'm from Hampton District. I am adjacent to Mr. Yates' property. And if you see the Clark Lane in the first long building, that is my property line there. And as someone said, when you up on that piece of property, you looking down on my home, on the co-op, and I just mainly don't think it's a place for a commercial business. I didn't think the original building back in the 80s was a place for a commercial business. And to put that much there, it takes away all the home up in the Rappahannock County. When I look out my house, it would be nothing but buildings. And he was speaking of putting up a fence and putting up trees. It would have to be a really tall fence to cover up any of that, because it's above my house line and you were looking down on everything. And it's just, I don't think it's something our neighborhood needs. Like I say, we all get along good there. It's a peaceful neighborhood. I know I'm on the end where it is commercial, but still when you go out the back, you still have your Rappahannock mountains, and that whole field would be just nothing but buildings. And like I say, it's nothing you could do to obscure it from coming in Clark Lane, because it's on a rise, so all the buildings would be above where you come in the driveway, and that's all you would ever see. Like I say, I was born and raised there, and to just see everything go commercial like that is very upsetting. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yes, ma'am.
Yobobarski, Hampton District. We live just up the hill on Clark Lane, right below Mr. Lexington. I was digging up some of the Planning Commission minutes and Board of Supervisors minutes from 1993 and 1989. And they specifically prohibit the warehousing. The storage is basically the same use. And there was one proper amendment, 93, for the construction company that applied for the storage for the inside of the building itself, but nothing outside. And if that proffer still carries, even though the construction company is no longer leasing the place, which was a 3-year lease agreement. It ended in 2010, and I don't know if that proffer still carries or if that disappears with the lease. I don't know. I haven't been able to find that out. But even if it does carry it, the internal storage should be able to make it within the 6,400 square feet that's designated at that time. I believe Mr. Fraser was in that meeting. And so for that, they don't even need a change or revision of profit. Only for the outside storage, which they specifically prohibit, is being asked for. And I just don't think that's fair for all of us.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? I'm Melinda Fisher-Brakeman, whichever name I get on Friday. I currently live in Flint Hill, Wakefield District. And some things were said when you were announcing everything, and I'm kind of new to this game, so forgive me. But you had mentioned something about the economics of the county, number one, and whether or not this would be a good idea. And I understand, I've been in Ginger Hill Antiques, and I know that it looks like a warehouse, but it's not. It's not a warehouse. They have to go in completely and rebuild the entire place in order to make it into a storage facility. Not only that, but they'd also have to tap into Annie Williams' business, Mountainside Physical Therapy, which I know has helped my children and my nephew and many, many other people in this county, so much to the point where you can't get an appointment there. We need that business in this county. Not only do we need that, but we need the employees there as well, and they need their jobs. There's a mother of a young daughter that works there. She probably can't find a local job. And because her lack of education, she may not be able to go into the city and get a good paying job. She counts on that income in order to support herself and her child. So I know that there's other factors involved, but there is something already in the books. It's existing. Let's just stick with it. We don't need another storage facility, but we do need Mountainside Physical Therapy, and we do need the folks that have their jobs at Ginger Hill Antiques, and the 35 other vendors that work there, and also provide tax dollars for our county, which in turn helps everyone. Thank you.
My name is Doc Nash. I'm a resident of Hampton District, 149 Clark Lane. These are all my neighbors, and I'm here for them. And one of the things I did today was I talked to James Ellers and Mr. Fletcher, and he's got 17,000 square feet of storage space, and he told me for 10 years he's run 80% occupancy. For 10 years, our population's probably been the same. So for 10 years, it's been 80%. And he said what's going to go in there is double that size, 34,000 plus square feet. Jay Miller said he won't be serving this county, he will be drawing it in from elsewhere. And so with that, there's no real multiplier for people coming in to store their stuff here. Rappahannock is a scenic county, like almost the first sentence of the comprehensive plan. Just repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. We are a scenic county. And so, you know, according to Jay, this is not even needed. If you look at the 10 acres, which is a kind of an interesting thing, we've looked at the minutes going all the way back to, I guess it was 89. If you look at this property, it is, Mr. Yates has done very, very well. And this is not his first rodeo. It's not for real estate. He's a successful man. He lives in a beautiful place in Culpeper. I don't know him, never met him, would love to. But he went and broke off a 10 out of 10 acres, he broke off 6 acres, sold it to the Whartons, or sold it to Trigon. They sold it to the Whartons, and he made a lot of money on that. He left this little 3-point-something acre on a hill with a knoll with rock outcroppings, and he wants to put 250 storage units on it. It's an outrage. It cannot be done. It should not be done. I understand they're just going to put gravel down and maybe some concrete slabs and put all these storage things on there. But it's going to be, you know, with coming and going and having, even with the business hours. One of our neighbors said that she's an emergency nurse. She doesn't have regular business hours. So if you have it from 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, it's not going to help her. So we would look forward to be able to stop this zoning creep, you know, from retail up to storage, maybe to something else later. We've got to let the law be what it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Any further comments regarding this application? I hereby close the public comment session for 16:04:05. Turn to the commissioners for discussion.
May I comment on the, will I have a further chance to comment on the?
There may be some questions from the commissioners regarding the application here shortly. Mr. Henry, this is in your district. Would you like to go for it?
Sure. First came to Rappahannock in 1980, so I've been here about 36 years now. When I first came here, this stretch here, this commercial stretch here on 211 that we're talking about tonight was a lot different than it is today. At that time, it was basically the co-op, and then you had the old Inn, the restaurant there, and then you had Mike Brown's service center there, B&B across the road. And over time, the highway got dual laned, B&B disappeared, and things developed over 36 years in this commercial area. And we dealt with most of those items, particularly with the bank construction out there and the purchase of that property. And you got the schools there, and I think it's been a very nice rural commercial development there. You've got the daycare, you've got a doctor's office, you've got a convenience store, you've got a nice bank there, and it's been a real nice mixed-use development. It wasn't a cookie-cutter deal, it wasn't a shopping centers, and it's really a rural commercial development that we all recognize, and I think we feel comfortable with it. And in the application here, the materials that we have here, it mentions Principle 7 of the Comprehensive Plan, and that we should consider, quote, to promote only economic growth that assists in maintaining our existing balance. And I think we have a very nice balance out there, and it's compatible with environmental quality and rural character. And I think our commercial development out there has a rural character to it and does not adversely affect active farm operations. I don't think this affects farms operations. Forestry operations doesn't affect that. or residential neighborhoods. And I think there's a big impact here on the residential neighborhood, particularly the Wharton's house. The photograph that was up there and showed the property line in front of the Wharton's house there. That was a wonderful photograph depiction of how close that property line is to their house. And I'm a real estate appraiser by trade, been so since 1986, and testified in court. And I would definitely testify in court that that property there is adversely impacted by this type of development that we're talking about here. So definitely there's an impact here in my opinion. And finally, the tourist industry and the county's physical stability. Tourist industry, I know I go into the antique mall there every 2 or 3 months. I see other people there. I know a lot of people have booths there in the county. And in terms of the commercial use of that property, it's been a very nice commercial use developed as time passed with that property, particularly with the physical therapy and the therapy, the dance. I've been there once or twice in the mornings and was surprised to see 20 or 30 residents in the county in exercise classes, and it's convenient. And I think a lot of this will get lost if these profers are changed. And Mr. Yates did sell off that 6 acres. That was his decision to do that. And this property on the hill, I think we're going the wrong way here in lifting these profers. I think the people around it made investments, committed their lives to these properties based upon doing their research, and now to change the rules, I'm not going to be in favor of dropping amending the profits. That's going to be my position when the time comes. Yeah, there's a picture there.
Thank you. I welcome the opportunity to agree wholeheartedly with my fellow commissioner. And I might add that clearly the sequence of proffers associated with this property make it clear that it's always been a very restricted use. And it's been carefully balanced along the way, and there's been a lot of focus on kind of striking that balance, and this blows it out of the water in my view and isn't acceptable.
Mr. Frazier.
Thanks a lot.
Sir.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
I was expecting him to say something, but
He
I forgot
is.
he recused himself.
He's recused himself.
Thanks a lot.
Happy to do it.
Kind of caught me half asleep there. Ms. Kaiser, in the chain of zoning amendments on this property, I don't see any paperwork for the rezoning that happened back. It says rezoning 812-02, rezoning for the 6.89 out of 10 acres from general commercial back to ag. I don't see any paper trail for that. We've got the paper trail from the very beginning of the proper rezoning. We've got the paper trail that shows the Kaitlin rezoning, the amendment on the proffers. Then we see this, but I don't see the rezoning back to ag. There's no paperwork.
I can look for it and see if I can find it.
I'd like to see that, but a couple of things on the site plan. Section 170-121 says that the planning commission with concurrence that the zoning administrator may waive the requirements. This is an intensified use, and it should have been part of the package. So it's going to need to be part of the package. So I feel, number one, that this is not properly before us. But I'll go on. Mr. Odom, under retail sales uses, there's no automotive uses.
I might have misspoke on that. I was referring to the uses under the permitted uses such as retail sales, less than 5,000 square feet, auto sales, repair and/or service, truck and heavy equipment sales, renter and/or service, mobile home sales, renter.
But none of that's allowed because all that was proffered out.
The only, I would speak to that in the proffer for the 28-52F tax map, it was 10 acres. The first part of that is the use in question shall be restricted to retail sales and offices. I was just simply reading from the retail portion of the code in that comment.
Right, but under the definition of retail sales, it says not motor vehicle related. So I guess we've got gaps here in the zoning ordinance, which is, we're finding a lot of them lately.
But the point I was trying to make was that the use of the property for the 10 acres that has been subsequently subdivided, Mr. Yates has still maintained the 3.8 commercial zone. So the proffers for that for retail sales and commercial uses still is in effect. So that would mean that if he would want to expand on his current retail sales operation, that is a use by right under the current proffers as they stand. This application is just to expand that right to allow storage facilities. So I guess the consequence of not approving it would just mean that he would have to continue with his current operation of retail sales, but he wouldn't be allowed the warehousing if you disapprove that, if you did not approve that amendment tonight. So I think that's the confusion, and because they're separate now, we're separating the use now under the amendment. We're separating that from the actual construction of any other storage units. So I think the big question is just maintaining the use language. He would actually be allowed to have a new use of the property, which would be expanded upon that retail sales and just storage, and giving him just storage, is not asking for any other expansion, but just on the storage. So, and that was my point when I was talking about the retail sales section in the Rappahannock ordinance and the permitted uses and by right uses under quote retail sales, which had been proffered in the past by Faith Mountain in 1993, in which Mr. Yates maintains those rights as the applicant. So.
Exactly, but, well, I can't say what was on the Board of Supervisors' mind in 89 and 93, but when Mr. Kaitlin came forward with the amendment to the proffers, the board looked at this piece of property as a buffer between the commercial zone and ag or residential uses. It was always looked at as a buffer. So if we were to lift the proffers, then it would no longer be a buffer, and that would change the intent that the Board of Supervisors had for several years.
And I can't speak to the intent of the Board of Supervisors when they allowed this commercial zoning district and allowed the 10 acres to have commercial zoning, but I can speak to the fact of what has been proffered in the past, and that is to allow retail sales and establishments on the property, and that is just the continuation. Mr. Yates has that right now by right as the landowner. He has assumed all the rights of Faith Mountain, and one of those rights was the retail sales operation. So if he were to expand on that, we wouldn't have to be here tonight. He could go ahead and get a site plan done and approved by the zoning administrator because it's a use by right. But now what he's asking is these storage facilities, which if you look at them, the impact that a storage facility would have would be less than some of the uses by right that Mr. Yates currently has. So I guess you have to decide now whether or not the use can be expanded to a, quote, lesser impact use, or expanding on his current by right uses. So I guess that's...
I'm not arguing that he has retail sales uses.
Oh, okay.
I'm not arguing that.
Okay.
I'm just arguing that the storage unit, the warehousing, would be an increased use, and that would change the proffers to get there.
Correct, yes. So in order to even have Mr. Yates come before the planning commission, he would have to have the use of storage on his property in order to come forward to build any sort of structure related to that storage use. So that's just to clarify on what I said earlier.
Right. And to echo the sentiments of some of the surrounding property owners, they purchased their property. Some of them apparently purchased it from Mr. Yates, knowing that he had a restricted proffers from any further development of that nature.
That's correct. That's correct. He did sell the property, and he was perfectly honest. He said, you know, look, I'm selling you a piece of property, and it's next to a commercially zoned district. So I don't think, this is just speculation, but I don't think the purchaser of the property looked back at all the proffers and said, and they based their decision on that purchase based on the proffers that were on file. Because if they based it on that, then I just don't think that they would have done that. They did basically do that.
I'm sorry, everyone needs to address the planning commission.
Planning commission. We're not having sidebar conversations.
So I think the purchasing the property next to a commercially zoned parcel, you have an idea that that parcel is going to be used for commercial uses, whether it be shortly after you purchase the property or 10 years down the road, like Mr. Yates finally has decided he now wants to use the property for commercial purposes, and one of those commercial purposes is storage facilities, and now he's in the position now to develop that property for the commercial use that is on the property currently as it's zoned.
Anything else, Mr. Frazier?
That's all I have right now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brown?
He wants to build 250 storage units. When just down the street, I don't know how many storage units they have, but only 80% are filled. Where does he plan on all this storage people want to store all this stuff coming from? They got to be coming from out of the county, because people in the county would fill up the ones we have already. So I'm agreeing with everyone that spoke tonight. It should be recommended denied.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
May I speak to that?
Briefly.
I just wanted to say
20 seconds.
The storage facility now is a current monopoly. There's no other storage facilities. By granting this use, you would actually be expanding on commerce and free trade, as well as a consumer's right to choose. They might not be using the storage units because they're cost prohibitive. They're $150 a month. What if Mr. Yates wants to do them for $50 a month? I mean, he's going to fill them up in a heartbeat. So that's all I can say on that.
Any further discussion?
I'd just like,
Yes.
thank you. I'd like to comment on I think when this was originally considered and we were looking at the Faith Mountain Company, and so unfortunately we had the opportunity to consider the storage issue, because I think the difference between it and a retail operation is the footprint of the operation. And I think while you might argue from an intensity standpoint that other retail sales would be more intense, from a visual impact, which I think is an important consideration for the neighboring properties, a large footprint storage facility I think has a greater impact than most of the retail commercial operations I can see there. So I don't find that a particularly compelling argument. That's all.
Gentlemen, anything else? So what's the pleasure of the commission?
You did say nothing.
I agree with the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny the application for the amendment of the profers.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The application's been denied. Recommended for denial, I should say. So we still have business to conduct, so if you want to stay, you're welcome, but I would ask if you got a lot of conversations, you can take those downstairs.
Yeah, I'm gonna come right back.
Gentlemen, the next item on the agenda is the comprehensive plan discussion. I'll ask Ms. Kaiser your comments, ma'am.
I guess I really put that on due to Mr. Frazier's comments. Mr. Frazier, did you want to comment on the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, I think it's time for us to try and start moving on with it as a planning commission.
If I might, Mr. Frazier, I just, so the commissioners are aware of a previous conversation I had with Ms. Kaiser, which has been probably a month ago now, 3-4 weeks. We had some discussion just in general about planning commission business, and the comprehensive plan came up, and obviously there's, in the administrator's office, there's been a lot of change there, transition, so that's been a task, I'm sure, more so for Ms. Kaiser and Kennedy as well. But and in that discussion, we talked about the planning, the comprehensive plan, moving it forward. And of course, there's been some subsequent conversation about potentially looking at the comprehensive plan a chapter at a time, getting that to us to review. And as we move through it very methodically, so we make sure we're doing a good job on considering the impacts, that future impacts that may have, we may have on that might be have an effect on the comprehensive plan. Some of the changes that we have documented, the input from the citizens that we had at the open forum meetings across the county. So there's been some preliminary discussion about that. I wanted to make all the members aware of that, the commissioners aware of that. So I think we all want the same thing. It's how we move forward and doing that. So just wanted to make you all aware of a previous conversation I had.
Sorry, we're messed up. Vote sheet on the- This is the one you.
We must go swimming for business.
Mr. Frazier?
The Code of Virginia requires, it tasks the planning commission with the duty of producing the comprehensive plan. And what we've done in the past, I guess, is relied heavily on John, because the planning commission doesn't really have staff. And I think what's happened in the past, we ought to try and move forward without doing the same thing somehow. A lot of times, the person that is the writer, I guess they take on a little job of editing, self-editing maybe, and I think we had some of that going on. It may have been inadvertent, but it happened. And I'd like, I guess we're just going to have to look at each and every chapter and make sure that whoever actually compiles it or writes some of this material, that it's actually what the planning commission is recommending. Because when it gets towards supervisors, it ought to be what this commission has worked on and recommended and agreed to, and then the board gets it and can take a look at it at that point. And I think if we're going to recommend it as a body, it ought to be what we recommended. It ought to be what we discussed.
I would agree with that.
And unfortunately, some of that that was in the draft wasn't exactly that. And I've got a lot of people that are concerned about some of the language about the broadband telecommunication. And I think that we need to maybe spend some time on that to make sure that that's what the people spoke about, about at the public hearing and the comment periods, and that this is what this commission is recommending. That's really all I have on it. Other than I did submit something with this because of I really think that the planning commission, especially the board of supervisors, got way off track with the adaptive reuse of trying to reopen the FT Valley store. So I put together something for country stores, and it's going to have, I think, some companion language, maybe a footnote, and the comprehensive plan. And so I sent something there.
Should we talk about how we're going to move forward with the plan?
Sure.
Before we get into into the weeds here, have a plan of action, if you will, of how we want to move forward with. Ms. Kaiser, please jump in, value your opinion, and the commissioners do as well. Would it be this commission's desire to take a chapter at a time, review that, give it heavy scrutiny, make the changes, revisions, and move into the next chapter after that's complete? It seems to be logical to do it that way instead of jumping around and looking at pieces and parts within the planning commission. I'm afraid we'll overlook something. I'll have a serious discussion about what the comprehensive plan should look like. And I'm open for discussion, gentlemen.
Yes, two thoughts that I have is that, we showed tonight what the commercial overlay was, and, we have some residents in that area. So I think first and foremost, is that where we want commercial to be? That should maybe be a first discussion to guide me or to guide you, whoever works on the comprehensive plan, to know what direction to go in. The second thing is that if you look at the Fauquier website, at their commercial plan, what they have done is really streamlined it more than what our document is, maybe refined it is better, as a better word, to really make it more concise and to really conform it with the strategic plans and goals of the county. So it's very visually pretty. It's not 125 pages. So I don't know if that's something that you all would want to consider. If I'm moving forward with the comprehensive plan, I would move forward with the way it is right now and add to it, but it's going to make it longer. So I think, do we need any commercial areas? Are we happy with what we have? Is going to be critical as we develop it, and also, do we want to change the structure of it or keep it the way it is? So I haven't heard that from this group. I think that might be worth a discussion before moving forward.
It seems that one of the questions, at least that's at play here, is sort of the process of writing and what's drafted. To me, ultimately, whatever is in draft form, until we vote on it and accept it, it's not our writing. And when we do vote on it and accept it, regardless of who actually first penned the words on the page, it becomes our written document. So I feel like in some of the kind of discussions about whether, who writes it first, I think it, just from a logistics standpoint, it's very difficult to write as a group and the right way. Certainly in my mind is to have Ms. Kaiser continue to be the principal drafter and for us to approve it and look at it. I'm fine with looking at it one section at a time. I don't support kind of massively restructuring it. I think this comprehensive plan has worked very well for us. It's been a model for others, as I understand it, in a lot of ways. It's a comprehensive plan, not a streamlined plan. So I don't have a problem with it expanding and getting cleaned up. And I suggest that the right way to do it is piecemeal, so we can make progress. As we get, and we started that process, we went through the individual chapters that are each sort of covering their own section. That was pretty straightforward. I don't know that those would change very much. As I recall, one of the issues was that there was very little about vineyards and wineries, which seemed to be sort of behind the times with respect to the coverage of the agricultural sections. So I think when we get to the later sections and there's talk about policy, it may be that we would need to do those in sections. That part is a little more interrelated, it seems to me. But I'm perfectly happy to have Ms. Kaiser, unless she requests another form of help, to draft it and allow us to comment and add our own edits and additions or deletions as we see fit. And as long as the process keeps moving forward toward a position for us all to ultimately agree to it, I think we're in good shape. I think the problem we're having now is that we've just kind of lost that momentum because of the transition. As for the commercial zone, the other problem with passage of time is that there may be new issues and views. I think one of the questions we might ask is, do we open this up again for an additional public fora? I mean, we've had several. We've gone around to each of the districts and heard from people, but now that's going on at least over a year now, probably.
No, we did it since I've been here. We did it in the fall. I don't know if it was October or November.
That was the one here. Yeah, I was referring to the ones where we actually went around. That was probably
years ago.
That was years
2
ago,
years ago.
wrap up.
I don't feel strongly that we didn't get a ton of input in those. I think as long as Mr. Irwin, I think he was responsible for at least 80% of the contributions that we got. As long as he's continued to be given an opportunity to express his most recent views, I'm fine with receiving chapters, reviewing them in sections as you can get them drafted to your satisfaction as quickly in each subsequent meeting as best we can.
Other comments, gentlemen? I tend to agree with Mr. Light.
Can you go through that again?
No. Read the tape.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something real quick? Since I've been doing this before.
Let us finish real quick.
I guess if we could just take a chapter, but us meeting once a month, we're going to be a year before we get to the supervisors at that point. So I don't, chapter a month, I don't think it's, but that's what we are, unless we have 2 meetings a month or something, I don't know what we're gonna do.
There's only 6 chapters,
Yeah, but, I mean, that's us going over it, and then we're gonna have one last public hearing, and then it would go to the supervisors for a public hearing.
I guess the question is what kind of time frame are you suggesting?
I don't know, I'm just trying to be practical, I'm just pointing out that if we take one chapter at a time, that would seem to me as 1 per month. We're talking 6 or 8 months before we get this to the supervisors.
Well, I would certainly be happy to see it more quickly. I think the question is, without putting you on the spot, Ms. Kaiser, when you feel you can have the drafts that you feel kind of accurately represent the compilation of input that you have received, I would be happy to look at those first background sections together. I think we've seen them all individually. I don't know that we need to go through those one at a time.
Have you approved them?
We have not approved them. Well, I think.
And you did go through them and make changes?
I
The drafts that are out on the,
I think the drafts that are out there now reflect some of the changes that were made during this exercise. So we had one bite at the apple.
We talk about this longer than I think what it will take. I mean, I think it was comments going into this that we needed to update the population numbers and demographics and move on to talk about, some more of the tourism and agribusinesses and things like this. But I don't think we're rewriting. It's just it's freshening it up. And in terms of expanding any commercial areas or residential areas and things like that, I don't think there's any stomach in the general public to do anything like that. So I think all the areas that are zoned now, comp zone, is what it is. And what we're really just doing is, addressing the wine and vineyards and updating the numbers and some things like that.
I think we need to do the vineyards and wineries. We probably need to include the Shenandoah National Park. We have a committee that is working together on a combined comprehensive plan. And we don't have affordable housing in there other than a line or 2. So we need to expand on that. And we need to make sure that transportation is adequate. That's a requirement. So there are some things that need to be looked at.
So I guess I would suggest that, we're sort of saying, well, chapter by chapter, because that seems obvious to us, but if it makes more sense from you to kind of work through a theme and have us respond to what's kind of written on a theme, and if that covers 2 chapters or part of a chapter, I'm fine with it. I feel like the key to this is we have a primary drafter, and it's really got to be, I think, got to be you, and the question of when we...
So why don't we just say everything be done by the end of the year?
Well, that's a great objective. I'm not sure that's not exactly clear that it guarantees that we'll get there. Just saying. I think we should try to do that. I agree.
Right.
As our objective.
End of the year, have it done.
Yeah, that's practical. We're actually going to go through it, but that's what it's going to take.
And when is it supposed to be done?
I think they beat us to the rubber chicken if we don't do it.
2009.
6 years.
Every 5 years, right?
Every 5 years, you're supposed to take a look at it, update it, look at the maps. We haven't looked at the zoning maps for years. I can't tell you the last time we looked at that. I think really I should say we haven't ever looked at that. That might be the best way to answer that. And that's supposed to be looked at every 5 years as well.
Well, let's set that goal and let's work towards that. And if it's, would be my recommendation. And if we want to have kind of, again, that goal setting out there. And if we finish beforehand, we get some traction, we're moving along a little quicker, that's great. If we have some topics or a section that just begs a lot of discussion because then that is what it is. I think we just got to be in the mindset, this has got to be part of our meetings as we move along every month at some level, whatever that is, and a lot of that will Ms. Kaiser as she's authoring this document.
And I think we might also set as a goal to address some chunk of it as you see fit each month. I think that's another way to kind of keep us on track, is that it be on the agenda each month, unless there's some compelling reason not to get them on. And that'll help us continue to get that, make that progress. Does that work for people?
Sounds good. We okay with that, gentlemen? Ms. Kaiser? Thoughts?
I will do my best. I can tell you that, this week in particular with the applications we've had, so many people in and spending time looking at the applications. We have another busy month next month with some things coming up. So, I don't know what's changed, whether it's because John has left and I'm here, I don't know, but it certainly has been busy, and there's only 2 of us in the office, and we're answering phone calls and making copies and helping people and, doing all the different things. So I will certainly do my best.
So maybe to offload that a little bit, maybe the other part of it should be each month we should, at a minimum, have on the agenda that we pay attention to and discuss our thoughts on the latest draft of a certain chapter. So that way we've got something to do, even if you haven't really changed anything since the last month. I mean, I think to me that would be a satisfactory way to also make sure that we're making progress without necessarily overburdening.
I'm good with that.
So like we have a plan?
We have a plan.
Any further discussion on comprehensive?
So I guess after we adjourn, we can let Mr. talk now.
There you go. No, I just wanted to say, from my experience, I mean, well, all of what you just said, it's not going to work, because exactly what Ms. Kaiser said. She's busy. You need to focus on it. And when we did the zoning ordinance, first of all, the planning commission met at least twice a month. Once its regular meeting, and once it had a work session. At least one, and sometimes 2. And we went through chapter by chapter, and we didn't rely on me to do it. We had Dick McNair, who I guess volunteered, because I don't think he got paid, or if he got paid, it was like $100. But what?
He got paid.
He didn't get paid much, though. He didn't get paid what he put into it, I'll tell you that. But anyways, somebody's got to be, in charge of it, sort of, and it takes a lot of time. And look what happened last month when we tried to go over the zoning amendments, like what was it, 15 things or 10 things, and they're not all that complicated, and we didn't even finish them, and now this month it got pushed off because it's too busy at night, and I understand that. And you're all tired after you have your regular meeting. It's now 9:30, everybody's go home. And not sit here for another hour really kicking things around. And that's what you need to do, in my opinion. So you need to have work sessions, and so it means you're going to have an extra meeting a month, at a minimum. In my opinion, you're not going to get anywhere. And the second thing is, I really think, just take tonight, what happened here. You all made a couple of decisions, or not you all, but somebody in the planning commission made all these proffers and approved them, and I read the minutes of both the planning commission and supervisors of all, I think 3 times. And everybody...
Mr. Cobb, we're
All
going to
right,
stop
wait a
there.
minute, I'm just saying, you got to look at what
This is not an
happened.
evaluation of the meeting tonight, so I appreciate
Well, I'm
your
saying that the comprehensive plan bears on that,
I got you.
because that's an element of it.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
a couple of fast thoughts. Number one, the first 5 chapters are basically updating information. It's chapter 6 that needs the emphasis. And number 2, please, if you're going to come up with a final draft of a comprehensive plan, let's know what the other adjacent counties to Rappahannock County's comprehensive plan is called for, as well as the Shenandoah National Park. And make sure that our comprehensive plan is compatible with the adjacent counties, that we don't have a rough edge like we do with Culpeper and Predator's Corner and so forth, where they plan to have development against our border where we have planned for agricultural zoning. So Please, let's coordinate with the adjacent counties, San Jacinto National Park, before we come up with a final draft.
Thank you. Good comments, good comments. Gentlemen, any further discussion?
I'm certainly open to additional work sessions. I think perhaps as you're thinking about the plan for how we construct this, if there are topics that, you know, that you think are needed, but you don't have time for, and you suggest a work session, that I'm certainly amenable to that.
As I am, we have done that before. In the past. There being no further discussion, any motion to adjourn?
So moved.
What about my